Back when Meta was Facebook, remember when 2021 happened, you got the ATT prompt. The ATT prompt was iOS 14, which basically blocked most user data coming inside Ads Manager from being seen inside Ads Manager. Like upwards of 70, 80, 90% of people like clicked do not allow Facebook to track. So that left Meta like, oh my God, what am I going to do? That's when they came out with CAPI. They came out with a system in which they can model data. They can maybe take out of 10 conversions, maybe they capture 4, but they're going to model the other 6. Whether or not those other 6 are actually accurate, it's highly subjective unless you actually have a click. Point is like the data that you see inside Ads Manager isn't necessarily the actual data, especially if you check it against your CRM. Happy Friday, John Moran.
Yes, happy Friday to you too, sir.
Calling in from the conversion kitchen, cooking up chaos, cooking up conversions.
Cooking up tracking stuff.
Unfortunately, you came upon a little tragedy this morning, so hopefully won't hear any howling dogs in the background. Sounds like he's pretty well sedated.
Yeah. We have a 5-month-old German Shepherd puppy that ended up getting injured by a golf cart this morning, and he's got a cracked jaw, and he's got fracture here, split molar, but thank God he's alive. He's well besides the face injury, but that was an eventful morning, that's for sure. Spent like 3 hours at the animal hospital, and that was fun.
Is there like an emergency room for animals? Like, I don't own a dog, so like, what do you do when something like this happens?
Yeah, so if you ever drive by a place called like a vet clinic, most of those are open 24 hours.
They are.
I used to work with one in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, but he was open 24 hours. We would start his ads at 10 p.m. midnight and end them at 5 a.m. And basically, as soon as anybody would call him, he'd be like, "Yep, come on in," because can't diagnose over the phone. And as soon as they show up, they do full blood work, X-rays, like everything right off the bat, just to kind of get a handle on it. So it usually charges about $2,500 for that. As soon as if it's 1 o'clock in the morning and your dog's bleeding and you're like, "I need help," you usually look for like animal hospital or animal clinic, and you'll find 5 or 10 near you within a 5-10 minute drive typically. Yeah. And so those people are just like, $120 clicks at 2 a.m., but there's like 50% conversion rates because you're not just being like, well, let me think about it for a while. That's a short sales cycle.
Short sales cycle. And that's actually what we're talking about today is the opposite of that, which is not short sales cycle, but probably on Meta is my guess.
Yeah. Meta. Google is a little bit easier for long sales cycles because they get to take their time on an inbound action. Outbound long sales cycles are very expensive, tough, and your metrics are not CPA based like everything else pretty much, which I have a small example of that, but it's absolutely, we have to think about how the algorithm operates and why. And when you're talking about something that has a long sales cycle, let's say 30 plus days, tracking becomes obviously very difficult because you have like a 28-day sales cycle or 28-day like click through, but you might be like 30, 40 days in sales cycle.
Meta basically loses sight of it after 28 days.
Or they think it's not working, right?
Yeah.
And that's the worst part is because it is going to do creative targeting, we still have some control over the type of people it goes after. But the frequency as to which they go after those users may be fairly low. Now, you have an average frequency of like 1.5. It doesn't mean that out of 100 people, everyone's seen it 1.5 times. It means out of 100 people, 80 of those people probably saw it once, and then 20 of those people saw it 3 times. Like there is, when you dig a little bit deeper into the metrics, there's some skew towards a more hot and, it's like a Little Caesars audience. They're hot and ready.
Right.
So it's a model that you have to kind of work with and retrain the algorithm. I've done this twice. Recently. One was with a company that sells outdoor kitchens. They're $18,000 in a 6-month sales cycle. We chose a previous point in time in the journey where it was plentiful and frequent, but it had a high conversion rate from that milestone to close. It was like upper 93 percentile. It's like once they reach this point, 93 out of 100 converts. So we're like, good, we'll use that because that conversion cycle is 3 days, although the sales cycle is 6 months.
Yeah.
They have to, build their own kitchen online. They design it. They meet with a designer. They finalize it. You got the materials, and then you have to go and actually get it built, which takes another 3 months. So by the time like all the money is in our hands, it's 6 months later, and Meta thinks that these people nothing, and Google, they think nothing happened with these people.
Right.
So
Right.
that's kind of what we're talking about today, is optimizing for longer sales cycles. Now, go ahead.
Past
I'll
30
pause.
days. I mean,
Yeah.
so we get this question a lot, actually. And we have a case study that we need to update because some of the data is a year or so old. But in that particular case, it was a franchise in the cosmetic surgery space where the sales cycle was 90 to 120 days for the big operation, for the big, like the tummy tuck or the liposuction or the Brazilian butt lift. But like there was a lot of touch points from the first click or the first impression through to booking the appointment, to the first consult, the second consult, the third consult, and then finally like the big procedure. And so what we found is like when we were doing the ads for this 25 centers, they thought none of the ads were working. And we actually didn't know that the cycle was so long until we looked back at the data after 90 days, because we were doing offline conversions back into the interface using a tier 11 data suite. And then all of a sudden we found like $2.7 million worth of revenue that magically appeared after 90 days. Meta never would have used that on conversion value or anything CPA based inside the platform because those people basically didn't exist. So longer sales cycles can be really confusing if you're using these shorter term, platforms. I know with offline conversions, you can import that data in many cases, but this is a sticking point with a lot of businesses. We come across the same sort of thing with all our personal injury law clients as well. Like they have a longer sales cycle until they actually get the money. Like that might be years.
Right.
Through either litigation or settlement, or if it goes to trial. So all of that. So this is really relevant to a lot of service-based businesses. And I think in the example here you're going to be using is in the education space. Correct me.
Yeah. So this is basically getting people to, this one is a company that sells online college courses, prerequisites specifically, that are fully transferable to 3,000 colleges nationwide. So a lot of even Ivy League schools, they are accredited with them. So they say, if you take it there, they'll transfer to us. So when you have a person that's like, I'm not sure which college I'm going to go to, and I didn't even know something like this existed, and I need to know if they transfer, I need to know if I'm actually going to that college, I need to know if I got accepted, and before I start taking it, or maybe I have another college that I'm thinking about. So, and there's some colleges that do accept it, some very few, but some colleges that are semi-popular that don't accept it. So sometimes it needs to make sure they're going to that. I mean, it's a long sales cycle. And it's now a few $1,000s in terms of LTV out of these folks, but it's not just something where it's like, oh, cool, like I know the college I'm going to, and I need all the prerequisites, and I just stumbled upon this today. Like that's not most people. They need some.
Think about it.
Exactly, and they might be ready to go, but they just maybe can't. So what we're looking at is, because we know we have like about a 30-day sales cycle, that's approximate. Now you're definitely going to have some people that are ready to go now, just like everybody. There's multiple variations of stages in the funnel that you can enter at any point in time, depending upon your need and timeline of getting something done. So there's always going to be that average. So a 30-day sales cycle is about average. And what's interesting about this is when we're trying to track just like the standard new customers. So we have this one, which is the Audience OS new customer purchase. Then we have click through checkout. And this one, the click through checkout, the reason why it's different than like the add to cart, because you'll see like 6,800 website added carts, but only 3,000 came from clicks. These are basically 3,800 that never actually had a touch point. So there is a lot of return traffic, a lot of warm traffic. So we needed to have it first click CAPI imported so that we could say, okay, this is where they started their actual purchasing decision. The interesting about this that we have our AOS new customers. So we ran this campaign actually back in, this is actually really a kind of a cool case study because we were using Northbeam at the time. That's what the client was already on when I joined with the company to help. And so we were using Northbeam, and long story short, I won't have to go through and showcase all of the actual data. You just kind of have to trust me. But this one here, as an example, I know I spent more than $3,000 descending. Come on. There we are.
237.
There we are. Yep. So this one here, we had these two campaigns. These were running. If we look back in time, this was in about July, end of July into middle of August. So last week of July, middle of August, and then we ended up pausing it. But we spent $50,000. But even like here, this is the customer one. This was not actually CAPI imported. So you see sometimes where it's like you made 12 sales, you made 14 sales, you made 87 sales. Now you made no. I mean, the data was just junk. It was just attributing more than contributing.
Right.
What was bad though was we weren't actually getting AOS new customers. It was like 4 out of like the 250 that I was counting. So basically 243 were typically fake. The problem was this is what the account was spending on for so long. So what ended up happening was they were trying to get a new customer to purchase. The new customer was not purchasing, and Meta changed audiences to, okay, well, who is purchasing? And they found out that they had a whole bunch of one-day view engagements from the existing traffic that was already buying that had nothing to do with that campaign. So it just latched onto them because for all the way since January, it actually never found anybody real. So what's funny is it's like, it's not the fault of the algorithm. The algorithm is just tracking what it can track, but because it can track so much, you have these like bottom of the funnel campaigns that they're like, wow, we're getting all these like, really stupid cheap conversions, $13 conversion. We spent 14 grand. Now we got 1,000 purchases. And I'm like, hey, by the way, when we actually look at our sales kind of like each day, like we don't have thousands of sales every day. This is weekly. I mean, I'd love to have.
Wow, what an overstatement. Wow. Wait a second. Those are all view through, like how it doesn't even match. Like, well, wait a second. January 1st to October 16th. Did you just look back? Well, what was the data on that on your look back on the Excel sheet?
Yeah, and I don't know. This is December of 2024.
Okay.
Yep. So I'll go through and track it. It'll make a lot more sense. I'm just trying to showcase this one here, but you're exactly right. Like, wow, we have 1,100 purchases. Now 194 took 7 days to click, but then we just tacked on another 900 one-day views. It's when Meta can't find it, it will find them from somewhere.
They'll find it somewhere.
And that's kind of what it did. It's not as, like I always say, it's not as Machiavellian as I make it out to be. It's not like, no, we can't get it, so let's steal it. It's trying to track them. And because it can count all events out, that's what happened this year, which is if it can see an event. And remember, due to loss of data, we may not have the clicks attributed all the time. So because of that, don't worry, we just backfilled it. What'd you backfill it with? Don't worry about it. Just be happy with your low ROAS. Or
this proves your point, though. Like when we were talking about this, like how much of Meta's data, if you don't use CAPI imports with edge tag, which obviously we'll talk about here in just a second, and we have a special that we're going to tease, is that they will find that data somewhere and or model it 40 to 60%, or just use view through conversions, which are conversions that would have happened anyway. Yes, did Meta have something to do it? Yeah, probably, but it's overstating its importance. And the data is largely modeled.
Right.
It's not actually click attributed inside the ads manager. And this is a point which I've said so many times that like people are starting to maybe understand it a little bit.
It's crazy how long it takes for people to get this, huh?
Yeah, because think about it this way. Like while you're drawing here, I'm just going to give a little history of Meta. Back when Meta was Facebook, remember when 2021 happened, you got the ATT prompt. The ATT prompt was iOS 14, which basically blocked most user data coming inside Ads Manager from being seen inside Ads Manager. Like upwards of 70, 80, 90% of people like clicked do not allow Facebook to track. So that left Meta like, oh my God, what am I going to do? That's when they came out with CAPI. They came out with a system in which they can model data. They can maybe take out of 10 conversions, maybe they capture 4, but they're going to model the other 6. Whether or not those other 6 are actually accurate, it's highly subjective. Unless you actually have a click, they're just sort of, and you figured this out with Northbeam to a certain degree. Point is like the data that you see inside Ads Manager isn't necessarily the actual data, especially if you check it against your CRM.
Exactly right. And that's what's funny is like Meta will never just check and be like, did I actually do that CRM tool? Like, and
No.
and click through attribution on the first click. And no, and what I always said was Meta is very, and Google and TikTok, and insert paid media campaign here, except for App 11. That's just a dog shit network. But we literally have canceled 6 App 11s this week. And this is $250,000 spends, and we saw 0 loss of top line. It's been fantastic. So I'm going to probably get killed by App 11 because their stock price is like pretty healthy right now. So anyway, so here's what ends up happening with Meta. The pixel is visualizing the blue here. This is kind of like your amount that we can track. What this means is that the pixel,
so the blue is what Meta sees, is what
this
saying.
blue box right here. And what the blue box represents is a timeline. And the timeline here, this would be day 1. This may be like day 15, and this may be like day 30 over here. So you got basically 2 like kind of different periods in time. You got day 30 up here, and then you got day 30 over here. So what ends up happening is on long sales cycles, Meta is not good enough. It doesn't have the physical tracking capabilities to be like, okay, I'm going to see this whole path here. And this is what people typically think. It's tracking clicks, it's tracking conversions. And that's not necessarily true. It's not going to get the first click and then say, okay, let's just wait however long it takes for us to see a sale. Because we all know that if it launches and you have day 1, day 5, day 10, and nothing happens, it's hard for most companies just to be like, well, I give it 20 more days at 10 grand per day. Let's just see what happens. Like that's 200 grand. Like, no, you can't just do that. So what ends up happening is that since Meta can usually see the last few things that are happening, which is why they use last click attribution, it's seeing about, it's only seeing the last kind of like week or so. Now, when you're looking at conversions, it's easy to see, okay, well, there's other sources and other channels that are feeding into this line here. You got organic, you got direct, you got influencer, maybe there's some email blasts going out, and you have all of these kind of sources coming from the unknowns feeding into these people who are getting ready to convert.
Right.
Now, because there is no click IDs at any starting point, but there is conversions at the ending point here.
Remember, they're hitting that thank you page. They're triggering that event just like any other user, and they're probably a Facebook user. Chances are, I mean, we're covering what 3/4 of the globe right now as far as population, as far as like who is on a Meta app. So chances are, even if they are not on Meta at that moment, they are being tracked by Meta, and they will appear as a view through because because
never clicked.
Right.
And so because you have all these sources that never started those users on their journey, but they're all ending at the same place where the pixel is.
Yep.
And then Meta says, well, wait, I didn't even get a click from this user. And then Meta also corrects itself and says, but that doesn't mean we didn't cause it.
Doesn't mean we didn't cause it.
Exactly.
They're a Meta user.
Yep. Now, all of these people over here.
Good enough.
Exactly. Like it's exactly right. And we're spending all of our money over here. This is now basically kind of like has been essentially severed, because once it happens, once they start to hit like day 5 through 15, Meta's just like, I don't know, like they're not doing anything. Change audiences, move, do something different. These people are not buying. Now they might have popped actually back up over here and now just look like different people because Meta can't fingerprint. But the gap here of the sales cycle is misinterpreted by Meta as they left and never came back.
Right.
So what we're doing is, because we can't really see the full journey and full sales cycle visually, or the pixel can't see the full journey and full sales cycle of a user, it simply just gets a click, and then maybe they bounced around on the website, and then they just kind of went off into the ether. Then Google basically, or Meta, well, actually Google and Meta just, okay, they came here and then they wandered off somewhere. We gotta stop going after these people over here. Well, these people are actually the same people over here that are converting. It just missed them. But in the meantime, I have like 50 things happening right here that I'm taking all sorts of credit for. And what am I doing? I'm hitting my cost caps, hitting my daily budget. You're creating new ads. You're duplicating the campaigns. And if you're spending more and there's more sales that can be attributed, I will attribute more for myself.
For sure.
So that's what they were doing for some time. And unfortunately, when we're looking at the visuals, like we spent 17 grand, made 115. Wow, let's bump it up to 22. Look, it went to 136. Let's bump it up to 123. Okay, it got a little worse. Well, let's bump it down. And no, okay, it got really, really bad now. Well, let's bump it down more. Wait a minute. So we reduced by 15%, but then we had 7% more. Okay, well, now it actually went 20% down. What we do? These are not connected to the spend because of the paint. Like the spend is over here and the natural sales that are attributing are over here. So these are fluctuating and this is, they're just disconnected.
Right.
So then when you start to look at year over year performance, it actually starts to be fairly poor. Like this was 378 this year. Last year was 354. And then this one went to 272. And then this one went up to 248. This was 260. This was 286. So now we're actually losing. And things were just, spend was going from 17 grand up to 32 grand, but nothing was actually happening on the top line. And everything's all sorts of messed up. Why?
Clients
Because
super confused.
Because this was fake that they thought was real. So it was not Meta's fault. It was just too long of a sales cycle for them to see. So they're starting a whole bunch of users on their journey, forgetting about those people, and then attributing people that are already buying.
Yeah.
And so that's why it got disconnected. So when we're looking at, we said, what point in time can we actually optimize the campaigns for they're actually real? So we said, okay, we need first click CAPI imports. That's a standard now that we practice. Right. Once we have that, what are we going to track? And so we decided to do the checkouts. That was the last step before hitting go. But as long as they are choosing the product, adding it to cart, beginning their checkout and saying, do I want to do this? The point there to the point of, yes, I actually do, could be another 10, 20, 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's an indication. You had data that checkout typically will mean they will progress to the next step, but there's a high likelihood of them progressing to the next step.
Exactly. Like there's a big indication that they will actually come and purchase if this is the right product for them. Like we brought them all the way up to the checkout, be like, did you find the product you're looking for? I have it in my hand. Did you get it in many? I have two, actually. I really want to buy them. Right. Are you ready to check out? No, I want to think about it. Okay, well, check out's that way. All right, sounds good. Like that's where we leave them, basically. That's the analogy.